welcome to another episode of Championship Drill. This is our midweek special after the midweek games. Some good games last night, a lot of goals, a lot of late goals and that. Joined as always with Jerry and Phil, and we're joined today as well by George O'Callaghan, who has actually played in the Championship for both Port Vale and Ipswich Town. Welcome, George. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, lads.
We might start with yourself, George, just because you've actually played in the league and that. We're in the midst of this now. They play again at the weekend, and then they go on international break. So when you're in that in the Championship, and it's like 3 games a week, and you just seem to be constantly going game to game and travelling around the country, what's that like in terms of with training and just showing up to a game, and then you're back home and you're training and you might be away again? Is it a tough schedule to do, or does it throw you off a bit compared to when you're just playing Saturday?
It is a really tough schedule for when you're playing it. I know myself when I was 18, I wasn't capable of doing the 3 games a week because it was just physically I just couldn't do it, you know. I think like I was still kind of growing, and your body's adjusting to playing like, you know, professional football, you know, against really good players. But then I suppose when I went back to Ipswich when I was 26, 27, I was well drilled, I was well able for it. But the Championship is a great league. I think it's one of the most exciting ones in football, in world football. I know myself, I suppose as I got older, in the Championship you need experienced guys and you need a bit of young lads coming through the academy, you know. And if you play on a Saturday and you win, you can't get too high because you're going to play again on Tuesday. If you lose on Saturday, you know, you can't get too low because you got to get yourself back up, and you need that experience and those experienced lads around you. And I was very lucky when I played for Port Vale that I was by far the youngest player in the team, but we were full of lads that are after coming down from the Premier League or coming to the end of their career, and they had that experience that used to get us through it. I think at Ipswich, we had a lot of young lads coming through, lads like myself. You know, I remember myself and Johnny Walters signed for Ipswich on the same day. It was kind of lads trying to get their career back and going because Ipswich didn't really have the budget to go out and spend 1 or 2 million on players. So they were just taking chances on players like myself and John. But it is hard because if you think about it, you know, you play Saturday, you recover on Sunday. Monday, you do team shape, you just get ready again. Then you're back in the bus, so you're travelling straight after training, or you're going home getting ready to play on Tuesday night. So physically, it's really demanding league. And I suppose that when I played in the Championship, I had to be bang on every day training, every session, every match. I think when I played in League One, you could get away with it. I used to stroll through League One, like the way I used to do in the Electricity League now. But the Championship is a really, really tough league, and if you're not right, you easily get found out. And I think you see that with results that come in every week in, week out, that you just can't predict it.
Yeah.
And you must have some great memories as well playing in the Championship. Some great nights. Are there any that stick out in particular?
I suppose the big one of the biggest ones for me, was my debut for Port Vale, because, you know, I was brought through when I was 15 as a kid. I remember we were 5 games into the season and we hadn't won. We were rock bottom of the Championship, and we were playing Wolves, who were top of the league at the time. They had Robbie Keane and Stevie Bull playing up front. And I used to go watch Wolves when I lived in Diggs. I used to go and watch them on a Saturday, go down and watch them if I wasn't watching Port Vale, and then get a chance to start that match and play against Wolves, like against a legend like Stevie Bull. And Robbie was just starting out in his career, and we ended up winning 2-1. So that was an unbelievable night for me to get that chance. And like, I remember playing the first 15 minutes. I wouldn't normally be nervous, but like, I was shaking, my legs were shaking, you know, with the crowd and the whole lot. And then to show you the reality of it, that was on a Tuesday night. We went to Crystal Palace on the Saturday. I was thinking then I was after making it, and I was playing right wing, and I came up against a guy called Ashley Cole, who was on loan from Arsenal. And my dad, it was the first time my dad came over to watch me play, and I was like thinking, oh, this fella's only in the youth team, or he's only like, Arsenal don't even want him, he can't be that good. But I learned a harsh lesson that day against Ashley Cole, I can tell you. And I suppose then when you talk about the Championship, my first away game with Ipswich, I played against Southampton. Again, I was on the right side of midfield, and I came up against a young guy called Gareth Bale. So then So I was well introduced against good players in the Championship, you know, and it goes to show, you know, they all started off in the Championship, they all learned their trade, and coming up against the Ashley Coles and the Gareth Bales, the Robbie Keanes. You know, it's a great time. You know, and I loved every minute of it. And when I left Port Vale, all I ever wanted to do was go back. So I missed that buzz on a Saturday or the midweek games, the build up with the crowds, and going back to Ipswich. Like, I made my debut for Ipswich against Colchester, which is a local derby, like from the 35,000 at Portman Road, you know. So, you know, they're big experiences. And, you know, it's something that I look back on. I suppose when you're in the middle of it, you don't think any of it. You just think you need to play it. But it was just some amazing nights, you know, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah. So we're going to go on here now to a team as well in Sheffield Wednesday. And was it a few weeks ago, wasn't it, guys, where he came out and he said, look, we're going to win our 2 games now this week and we'll be out of the negative points. Yeah. And then they lost 4 in a row.
Yeah.
And that can happen, I suppose, as well, George, in the championship with these games coming. If you start losing games and then you lose 2, suddenly you've lost 3 games, then a week is gone. It must be hard sometimes to come out those ruts as well.
Yeah, like, and it's so difficult because you know yourself, you string 2 or 3 wins together, you're back in the playoffs. And if you lose 2 or 3 games, the manager's under pressure because then the club's panicking because they all want to be in the Premier League.
Can I just ask you, how did you find international breaks? Because like we've seen teams go on a run and then they start losing the minute they come back.
I was lucky with internationals because nobody ever picked me in the FAI, so I used to always have a break.
Joke. Crazy how you weren't picked. Crazy.
It wasn't a bad Irish team though when you were there.
No, they had some very good players them days. But kind of getting back to the question, I think sometimes it's just like anything. If you're on a run and everybody's comfortable and everybody's training and they kind of got that routine and you're winning, and then all of a sudden it breaks up, all the lads go away, you're still on the training ground, you're probably training with the reserves or the youth team, and then the lads come back, it kind of mixes everything up, you know. Things aren't the same then as it was before. I suppose if you're losing, you got a chance to kind of go get a bit fitter or kind of readjust your game and think about what's going on. But definitely I actually don't like the international games, to be honest. And I used to always dread them because then I knew like I had a week or 10 days sitting on my arse really. But I do think it does disturb it, you know, especially if you're on a roll and if you're winning.
Yeah.
But, you know, it has to be done. The lads went off and played and, and you're sitting at home watching it, yeah.
Well, you've seen with Bristol City, they were on such a run there recently.
They are.
And then they came back and haven't won a game, I don't think. Did they win last night?
They won last night. It was their first win in 5, I think,
Yeah, because they had the 4 games before that. They lost, then they drew, and then they lost another 2 games. And then they get the win against last night. So, you know, Bristol City's one of those clubs that when I went over and played in the championship, you don't realise how big Bristol City is as a club, you know, because I wasn't brought up, you know, I was brought up watching Match of the Day. So when you go there and you play then a place like Ashton Gate and all these places, like you realise like these are big clubs, you know, so that, you know, they should be up there, thereabouts, you know, it's a lovely part of England. But yeah, they got the win last night, but, you know, they're looking again, so the quick turnaround now again to go on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's it. So we talked before we go into the game, of Sheffield Wednesday, and big news for them yesterday. The Court of Arbitration for Sport reduced their 12-point deficit down to 6 points. Do you feel, guys, that was kind of a fair thing to do?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, the whole thing with Wigan as well, like what happened with them. Yeah.
I think we talked about this a few weeks back anyway at the start thing. The thing with Wednesday was when they actually broke the rules was 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
And had they been deducted 12 points, like happened to Wigan, they would have actually survived that season. They wouldn't have been relegated.
Yeah. So
they're punishing them. If they'd have punished them last year, they would have been relegated. But it was more the league's fault for delaying. So Wednesday would have actually stayed up if they got the deduction the season they should have got it.
Yeah.
And
I actually found the owners for Sheffield Wednesday in 2015. I was working for a bank in Singapore. So I knew the owners.
Yeah.
And in 2015, in January, I did their transfer window. And I thought, well, that's perfect. I'm going to get a job here now, like a really cool job, like 250 grand a year, the whole lot. It was all set. And then about first week of February, I never heard from ever again. So, so it's a bit of karma now for Sheffield Wednesday.
That's it. I mean, they are still bottom of the league. They do only have 5 points even after getting the deduction.
They're destined to stay up. Yeah, I think they're going to stay up.
When you talk about Sheffield Wednesday, and I played there a good few times, like the aura in that place, you know, the Hillsborough disaster and that stadium. And like that stadium used to like host the semi-finals of the FA Cup. If you remember, if you're as old as me.
Yeah.
Like, and you walk into those places and like the hairs in the back of your neck go up because you're standing on a pitch like where you knew all this kind of stuff happened and all that. And Sheffield Wednesday is a huge club with great tradition, you know, but same with Sheffield United. But like this to see Sheffield Wednesday, I always remember when we were kids, they used to have Paul Walhurst. I don't know if he was a centre back and they converted him to a centre forward with Chris Waddles and he scored all the goals. But that's my memory of Sheffield Wednesday. So how I used to try to sell it when I was involved in it. But it's a great club, you know, and it's a club that deserves to be back in the Premier League. And you know, you look at they're playing Bournemouth last night. Like, you know, Sheffield Wednesday is by far a massive club, you know, compared to Bournemouth, you know. But Bournemouth just seems to be run properly and has that proper, better structure than Sheffield Wednesday have had over the last 10, or what is it, like 8 to 10 years. So,
yeah,
that's it. So we might move ahead, so guys, and just start talking through the games that happened Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
We started Brentford at their new stadium. Toney, another goal, his 10th of the season, flying it. Ayew, 40 minutes from time. What's that?
10 and 10.
10 and 10, yeah. 10 league games now for him. Yeah, Ayew, who's another good striker for Swansea. I don't know how they still have a hold of him. But
Ayew was brilliant.
Yeah.
Ayew was brilliant last night. I watched the highlights. He got a great typical finish in the 6-yard box, and then he had a header ruled offside in the last second. It was last kick of the game, last header.
Yeah.
And the thing, they don't have to be our line, so you can't see.
Yeah,
it's great to see. It's great to see in the highlights where you have to use old school. You're trying to see when the ball's kicked forward and where the guy's standing.
It's nice to see that.
It's not quite in line.
Yeah, we were always on about it every week about how it's going to destroy the championship if they bring it in.
Yeah, I don't think it fits. I think it ruins the game, doesn't it? Because it's all about the passion and people making mistakes. That's the whole point of football. You make mistakes and you try to recover. Referees make mistakes, managers, players.
Like last week, there was a scandalous decision last week in the Huddersfield game where the ball clearly didn't go over the line.
Well, we've another one of them coming up in the Watford game.
Yeah, that was Watford. That was cleverly last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, where it certainly didn't look over the line. And then Joe tried to assault the goalkeeper, spear him or something over the line. I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah, the referee's watch went off when the guy pushed him over the line, the keeper with the ball. It's crazy.
So. We'll come to that one later. But in terms of this one, Brentford, I mean, I don't know what to say about them. They can't seem to string a couple of wins together.
Yeah.
They're up and down. Their form is all over the place as usual, but they're still up there, I suppose. Swansea have been in good form. They miss Gibbs White a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of creating chances, because they were flying it when he was there. And they're second in the table. It's not like they're going badly.
I was actually at Brentford for a while in 2010 when Nicky Foster was the manager, you know, and you know, they had that stadium, you know, you come in and you walk in behind all the houses. It's like mad, like you're basically walking through somebody's front door to get into the stadium, you know, old stadium. And I suppose with Brentford, they're nearly men that, you know, they're always thereabouts and haven't made it. But I don't know whether them going to the new stadium and if they had the fans there, because I think the fans in the championship make a big difference. You know, I think if they had the fans in that stadium rocking, it would make such a difference to them. Like, because even with Norwich last night, you watch Norwich, like, I think the fans drive you on sometimes and they just don't have it. In Brentford, in the old stadium, the fans were literally on your back, you know what I mean? And pushing you forward. Like, it was intimidating if you were a player because you were so close to the fans. And, you know what, I think they kind of missed that now at the minute. And I think the game last night kind of showed that, you know, they were kind of in and out in good spells, but they couldn't contain it for the whole match.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose Brentford, Swansea unbeaten in 5, Brentford unbeaten in 3, I think. They're both kind of doing all right, I suppose. Not probably as well as Brentford would like. But like you said there, George, the new stadium, that it's kind of a pity the fans haven't been allowed into it because they've been, again, another club that's run very well. And like you're saying, the fans definitely make a difference. We went to the Bristol City game then. Huddersfield 1, Bristol City 2. Wasn't the most exciting first half in the world from what I saw anyway. Koroma gave them the lead. And then we've seen Huddersfield this season when they take a lead. They're just so well organised under Corberan. Yeah. It's very hard to break them down. Semenyo came on for Bristol City, and he kind of turned the game around, and they got 2 late goals, the Silva's first ever goal, and then Paterson with the winner on that one.
Yeah.
Huddersfield's defending was terrible last night, though.
Yeah.
They were all over the place.
Shocking.
That second goal was horrendous.
Yeah, it was.
It was comical, and the manager, who's worked so hard on him, when you talk about the international break, the last international break, Huddersfield came back a different team because he was able to work with a lot of the players that weren't the internationals.
Yeah.
And they just seemed like a different team. And I suppose when you're playing 3 games a week, like you do yourself, George, it's probably hard to work on little tactical things when you're just getting ready for the next match. When you have a guy coming in who's trying to change the philosophy of a team.
Yeah, no, and do you know what? He done a great job at Lincoln, but like, and as you say, you get found out in the championship, and it's a tough league, you know, and you've got to be ready. Like, I suppose, think back when I played, I remember when you can only make 1 substitution, like, and I remember when I got into the first team, you had 3 subs, and that was it. And when I was 17, I used to always be like the 4th or 5th sub, and I used to get 250 a match appearance, and I used to be devastated. Like, but now you can make 5 subs and have like 8 in the bench. I was like, I would have cleaned up. Like when I was a kid, I would have been delighted with my 2, like that's £750 extra a month or a week. But I do think it is.
That's why these young fellas look so happy. So when they're coming on for the last 10 seconds of a match.
Yeah, they can't wait. Yeah, 1,000 bonus for your win. But it's all about the squads now and how they use it, isn't it? You know, like in same at Huddersfield, you have to adjust. There's so many injuries because you can't sustain playing all these games. You know, it's literally crazy when you're in the thicks of it. But I can never see Huddersfield coming back up though.
No. I mean, they're kind of a team that are lucky that they're still in the division at this stage. How bad they went down the last couple of years, so he's kind of stabilising them a bit at least. They can stay mid-table or something. I think we said it wouldn't be too bad for Huddersfield this year because they were so lucky last season with the form they were in at one stage. Move on then to, you mentioned the Norwich game here, 0-0 with Millwall, who Millwall have been flying it as well this season. 27 chances created from Norwich in this game.
That kind of goes back to what you were saying about the crowds being missing.
Yeah, because if you watch the Norwich game, they had a lot of chances, as in shots outside the box. They didn't really create a lot. They had one that hit the post. But everything they really had, Millwall just defended around the edge of the box, and they were just shooting from outside the box, and they were getting chances. They had a few corners. They were lucky. I suppose they one good bit of play in the box. Can't remember the lad hit the post. But apart from that, I just think that, like Phil says, and we were talking about, you know, the fans at Norwich. Norwich is one of those stadiums, old school stadium as well, where the fans are trying to bring the ball into the goal for you themselves. So, but last night, kind of watching it, Millwall defended well. They weren't very good on the ball. Millwall, they were a bit reluctant to kind of pass it. They weren't great in that, but defensively, they were very solid because Norwich really didn't break them down, even though you say the 27 chances, but it was only all long shots. And
Millwall seemed to set up that last night. They seemed to go out, I think, almost like they were looking for a draw away to Norwich in the way they set up, and we'll try and hit them on the break, which a lot of teams do, I suppose, in the Championship when they're away from home. And they almost nicked it in the 95th minute, which is would have been a typical, almost like you remember Sunderland doing that so often in the past, where they're getting battered for 90 minutes and break away in stoppage time to get the winner.
Gary Rhodes a good manager though.
And
Very good,
he has him going well. And Troy Parrott is supposed to be coming back after the next international break, so he's had a disastrous time on his loan spell there so far.
He'll make an impact. He's going to be good.
Yeah, he's a good player.
So we'll wait and see. I think he only played a bit of a League Cup game before he got injured again. So we'll move on now to Sheffield Wednesday, like we talk about. And Mystic Phil here again. He predicted Reading's run will come to an end last week, and he predicted Wednesday would upset Bournemouth. Here, Bournemouth's first defeat of the season. Turned, I suppose, on the penalty incident, the red card, which looked a bit soft. It was kind of more hip to hip than shoulder to shoulder, I suppose. But a soft enough one, and I think they were more shocked the red card was given in some ways. But did you see this?
Yeah, the keeper fouled him.
Yeah. What did you think of this one? Did you get to see this, Jerry?
Yeah, I watched the highlights. I think obviously the red card changed the game. I know there was a red card at the end of the game as well, but great result for Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, the good news as well that their point deduction happened. There's a lad there, I think Josh Windass there for Sheffield Wednesday is brilliant. He's solid. Like Barry Bannon's been around a long time. Obviously got the penalty. Yeah, I think great win for Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously Bournemouth, it's going to be a harsh defeat for them. They've been on a bit of a run. I think it could be the sign of Wednesday coming up that table now a small bit. They definitely, I think before the season with the point deduction, we said they might go down. But I reckon they're going to stay up nicely. I think they'll definitely finish, well outside that relegation zone. So great win for them.
They're definitely going to appeal that red card.
Oh yeah, definitely, without a doubt.
Yeah. What about yourself, George? If that was you in the box committing that foul, would you have been
straight down, kid?
Upset for the straight red card?
I'd have been straight down to get my win bonus.
Yeah.
But if you think about Bournemouth, the last 5 games, they've won 1, they've drawn 3. They just have too many draws, But I do think they'll definitely at least be in the playoffs because their squad's too strong. And I know the manager left, but they're still, the assistant manager came in. But I still think they still have the same structure, and they'll be there or thereabouts at the end of the season. And I think losses like that is going to happen. So
I mean that happens in the Championship. You're going to get these nights, I suppose, where you can't win every game. I mean, maybe Wickham will go on and win every game the rest of the season, but the run they're on. But we'll see. So we move on then to another one, which I suppose Neil Warnock was always going to be managing one of the 0-0 draws that are bound to turn up every way. Blackburn 0, Middlesbrough 0. Borough seemed to be the better the team from what I saw of it. But again, same as last season, I think. Didn't we say they scored something like 46 goals or 48 goals last season?
Yeah.
Borough, which is not an awful lot of goals to be scored on.
That makes it an average goal a game.
Yeah. I mean, they're almost set up not to lose and try and nick one, but
I think they've
Toney
a few weeks.
Tony Poulis's motto is just run. That's his motto. So he just runs them and they're defending well. Like Blackburn have been on a great score. Have been one of the highest scorers in the football league.
Yeah. And a big miss for them though. He got an injury, I think, in just before the game last week. I think he's 9 goals or something in Championship, so he's going to be missing out for 2 or 3 weeks. Huge loss for them.
Yeah, last thing, and if you want to get promoted, you need a striker, don't you? You want to get up the table, you need someone that scores goals. You have to have a goal scorer, no matter what league you're in. Yeah. And when you're missing somebody like that, and like Blackburn and they both probably would take a point out of that game before it started anyway. I think they both would have been happy with a point, but I say, it looks like I didn't watch the highlights, but it sounds like reading up it as a bit of a dull game anyway. So
yeah. I mean, we know what Warnock's going to do anyway when he's in charge of someone. He's going to kick the ball long and high as often as possible, which tends to be, I mean, I suppose players don't get to see that style of football too often anymore. So maybe that's why it works so well for him when he's just slumping, just ignore the midfield and play it from back to front as quickly as possible.
I think he's more, I was saying Pulis earlier, I meant Warnock. He's more of a manager, old school manager. I think he's more kind of gets the players going.
Yeah.
Rather, players want to play for him and they like the way he is and he's that type of character rather than, say, like when we look in the Premier League, like Pep Guardiola and all these with the coaching styles. I think Warnock is more old school, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And, people love him for that, I suppose. In a lot of ways, he's been around a long, long time, and you can't be around that long, I suppose, unless you're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly.
Cardiff 3-0 winners over Barnsley, the first defeat for Barnsley.
Barnsley were really poor.
Hoylett, Rawls from penalty, and Wilson very late on for Cardiff. Or Wilson not so late on actually in this one. I don't know, everything seemed to go right for Cardiff today, and the ball went into the net. Whereas a few times this season they played very well, and they just haven't got the goals.
Like I know Jerry's on about Wilson. He's too good for where he is.
Yeah, way too good for Cardiff.
Like he was so good again. He was so good yesterday.
Scored a very good goal again, and I think wasn't he brought down from penalty as well.
Yeah.
Cardiff is one of those teams you cannot put on your accumulator because you do not know what's going to happen.
Yeah. They are very much that way this season.
Well, they had 3 draws, a loss, and a win. That's their last 5 games.
Yeah, and they tend to sometimes they play really well and lose a game. They're terrible and they steal a win. And I don't know what they can do. I suppose the manager doesn't know either. Like he's just hoping for the best. It seems when he sends them out there.
He's an interesting character. He's their manager.
Yeah.
Harris. Played against him loads of times. I've actually been out with him a couple of times. He's a good lad, like, but he doesn't bring his character, his personality across as he does with teams, because he was a right nutter.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for those guys when you kind of remember him playing as well, I suppose, isn't it? When they're trying to bring their football, and you think of someone like Slaven Bilic even, who's doing it, you know, at West Brom, and when he was at West Ham, and you're thinking of a guy that used to basically just try and kick you into the stands every chance he got, and then he's trying to tell players to be a bit more disciplined.
That's it.
But it's crazy. You find the ones that were talented footballers will go back and be a manager, and they'll just be structured and wanting their team to be fit, and then you get the kickers that will go, well, I just want to play football, and you're like, because I told you before, when you turn into a football manager, you turn into a weirdo. Everything you wanted to do yourself goes out the window, and you start making some strange decisions.
Well, that's it. We move on then to Preston, who are always going to win away from home. It's Reading. What is it now? 4 wins and a draw away from home for Preston. 5 defeats at home for Preston. Sinclair Reese got his first goal for his new club, and late third by Potts. So it's another away win. 4 wins out of 5 away from home and a draw, and 5 defeats. Reading lose 2 times in a row now. Yeah. And they've still happened to division by 3 points, so they'll be happy enough with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Is it a structure thing with Preston, where away from home they seem to sit back and try and counter, and at home they feel like, even though there's no fans there, we need to push for a win, because their form away from home and at home is just so different. Yeah. And with no fans in the stadium, I don't know. I don't think the manager, as well as like after the last game they lost, he was like, I don't know. He seemed like a defeated man, not knowing why the hell they can't win at home.
Yeah.
But they have those players. That team set up for on the break and attack with the pace they have with Sinclair and Toney and all the lads, you know, and they've good midfielders. So maybe that is like, and they've struggled to break people down at home, and that's surprising with the kind of quality they have. But it's a real strange one, and like you have to scratch your head about it, because you think when you're in the Championship or in any league, you're expected to pick your most points up in your home games, and they seem to be doing that away. You know, same as United at the minute. United are the same. You're thinking, well, you're getting battered at home, and then you're winning against Paris Saint-Germain away, like, you know. So.
Well, see, it's strange, when 13 points out of 15 away from home, which you would think they'd be up at the top of the table with that kind of form.
Yeah.
When I was in the Championship with Port Vale, we used to play 4-4-2 at home, and we used to struggle at home. And when we used to play away, we used to go back to 4-5-1, because if it was 4-4-2 when I was young, I didn't play in midfield because he didn't trust me in midfield, because I used to go wandering. And then on the away games, we played 4-5-1, I would play. And we actually had a better structure with a 4-5-1, because not knowing at the time, we had 2 wingers. We actually had Gareth Ainsworth, the Wickham manager, and we had Stephen Guppy, and we ended up being a 4-3-3, really. Yeah. But like 4-3-3 wasn't in fashion back then. Do you know what I mean? So nobody would even think of playing that. But it's just the players, really, I think.
Yeah, and it's I mean, does that get into your head now? Like, if Preston home now, and they're home now, or they're away in their next game, look ahead there. They're away to Rotherham, so that'll probably be another win for Preston. But in the next home game, they go goal down at home again. Does that come into your head then that, oh, geez, here we go again? Like, we've lost 5 in a row here.
Yeah, it definitely does when you're playing. You know what I mean? You do think stuff like that on the pitch. You know what I mean? And you do set pieces, and you're panicking, like, going, please, just don't score whatever you do. You know, like, you're like literally stressed out of your head. And like, I remember, like, in my Cork City days, when we had a really good side, like, we would batter teams, and we would always get caught in the early days with a goal. Like, I remember we played in the Stanley Cup against Portadown, we battered them, and then the fella has a shot from 35 yards, goes in the top corner, and stuff happens like that. And sometimes it just all comes at once, and you just can't get out of it. You know, you're playing at UCDs, and you just can't score, and you're like, what's happening today? Like, so.
All right, so we move on now to the high-scoring game of the week, I suppose. Watford 3, Stoke 2. Stoke had a good record against Watford recently. In their last 8 games, they'd won 6 of them. Very late winner here, and we talked about this one earlier. The Cleverley goal kind of turned the game around a bit. Well, the Cleverley non-goal, really, as it was. Like we said, we love the referees making dodgy calls and that, and it happens, and it adds to the excitement. But that must have been one of the most ridiculous ones we've seen in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I'd say the last few years. But no, it's very bad. It's a foul every day of the week.
Yeah, it's a strange one because he seemed to be just waiting and waiting and waiting to give it, and then, like you said, he must have known that the watch went off after the goalkeeper was thrown over the line, basically.
Yeah.
By Joe. So a strange one for the goal to be given, and like that was the equaliser time when Stoke have been kind of the masters of the 1-0 win this season under Michael O'Neill. So they've been scoring a lot of goals recently, though.
It was a great save by the keeper as well.
Yeah.
But I think the keeper, when he made the save, it was a great save, but he should have been stronger.
Yeah.
On the rebound, you know what I mean? He should, you think keepers would just blow like the centre forward out of it, but like it was a great save and he recovered, but he should have been stronger. Like, he should have just like held his ground, but and then it probably wouldn't have been a goal. But they were unlucky there. But listen, lads, I spent 7 years with Stoke, or the big rivals of Port Vale, and I had Stoke City fans chasing me around Stoke every Saturday night. So
you don't feel bad when anything goes against Stoke?
I think it was a great result.
Georgie, what do you think of Obi Mikel at Stoke? Obviously, I think, did you play against him? You played against Chelsea. Was it in the FA Cup or the League Cup? But do you think Obi Mikel still has it? Obviously, we go on about him every week because he's a legend. But do you think he still has it?
I do. And funnily enough, when I was an agent at SEM, I actually looked after him. He's one of those players, he just became a sitter, didn't he? And he just sat in midfield, and he can definitely, with his experience, get through that in the Championship. I think the thing with players like that is whether he's up for it. Do you know what I mean? Stoke, as the Lou says, Stoke on a Tuesday night, when the wind and howling up there by that motorway, do you know what, it isn't a nice place, and it's difficult to play football. But I suppose it's whether his enthusiasm for the game now. He's made his money. It just depends on what he wants to do. Is he just like picking up his wages and just getting on with it, or if he just wants, really kind of end his career on a high? But I think lads like that, they all look after, they all look after themselves. You know what I mean? He certainly, he can cruise through the Championship if he wants.
Yeah. What do you reckon he's on a week, Georgie? Do you reckon he's still on 30, 40 grand a week, or?
I say around that. I say about 35 is the average, isn't it, for a good midfield in the Championship?
Nothing wrong with it, I tell you.
No.
The best whenever was Kevin Doyle. Kevin Doyle was on 45 grand a week in the Premier League, and they got relegated to the Championship, so they had a clause that his wages would go down to 40 grand in the Championship, and then they went down to League One. And Doyle rang me, goes, I'm in League One and I'm on 40 grand a week. I was like, oh my God.
That's like Jack Rodwell was on 70 grand. At Sunderland in League One.
Yeah. He spent more time on the documentary than on the pitch.
Yeah. It's one of those, isn't it? I suppose if we wanted to talk about the wages and the wage structures and that, when you're, I suppose Burnley have kind of set the mould for what a team want to do. When you come up to the Premier League first, is just don't spend money, which is kind of what Norwich did last season. And kind of take the relegation, take the parachute payments, take the Premier League money, try and go up again, and then maybe rebuild the squad. Because you have more money now from being promoted twice. You still, you've had your parachute payments and that. Because when teams go up and just throw money at the Premier League and get relegated, they're in a lot of trouble when they go down.
Fulham did that, didn't they? Remember, they just bought basically a whole new team.
Yeah, and Villa, who were lucky to stay up, kind of in the same boat as well last year, where they just spent ferocious amounts of money, and they would have surely, if they had gone down, which again, talk about goalkeepers carrying balls over lines, they probably should have went down last season.
Yeah.
But there we go anyway. And so Stoke have been going along well. I suppose they'll take this defeat. They've been a bit up and down in recent weeks, but they've going along well. Watford up into fourth now in the table, and the three relegated teams all kind of up there.
Yeah, third, fourth, and fifth, I think.
Yeah, they're strong though. They still have a good balance of the players that came down from the Premier League, and I suppose I think being able to make the 5 substitutions now was massive. Because they're getting to use their squads and their deeper squads than all the other clubs. I think as the season goes along, that
must really help with the 3 games a week. Like when you've the likes of a Rotherham and a Luton Town who can barely probably string a 16 together some weeks.
Yeah, but in saying that, when Luton played Man United in the League Cup, they basically played a whole brand new 11.
Yeah.
But I think
the quality difference was probably, like when you look at the players that are still missing from Watford to come back even.
Yeah. I think Watford will go back up. I think the ones you need to worry about really, for instance, is Wickham squad. They literally just can't do it.
Yeah. I know you have to go in a minute, Jerry. If you want to stay
lads, honour as always.
Yeah.
See you, Jerry.
See you boys.
See you, Pat.
I'll see you later.
Yep. So we'll move on there, guys, to who you were just talking about there, Wickham. 2 wins in a row, probably. They'll maybe never lose a game again.
Yeah.
After never winning, they were just the unluckiest team the first few weeks, and they're getting a bit of luck now.
They play every game like it's an FA Cup match.
Yeah. You've Akinfenwa. It's what, 38 now? He started last 3 games, and they've drawn 1 and won 2 of them. He just seems to lift the team when he's in there.
It was funny last night because Gareth Ainsworth, the manager, I know him well.
Yeah.
He hasn't been there the last 2 games because he's had a back operation.
Yeah.
So Akinfenwa is basically, I think if you see after the game last night, he's rallying the troops, sees them all in a circle after the game, screaming and roaring. But he seems one of those guys that has the enthusiasm, doesn't he? That kind of
unbelievable
comes off on people. So
you want him
amazing.
to do well, even if you don't support Wickham. He's the kind of guy you just want him to do well. But even that, just because Wickham had a real problem early season holding on to the football, they were giving the ball away a lot. And to have someone like him who you can just basically lump it to, and it's going to stick to him because he's just so big, he's impossible to mark.
Yeah.
He's like the big guy in the 5-a-side that you just give him the ball and he's got the massive beer belly and you just can't get around him because he's too fucking big.
It's not trendy anymore to have a big and a small guy up front, is it? You know what I mean? Everyone's about speed and small players and technical. But I can't wait for the day somebody goes back to 4-4-2 and just has a big tall Peter Crouch and a striker that can finish off goals, like a Marcus Stewart and all these guys down the areas. But definitely. But do you know what? Wickham, like as Phil said there, it is how's their luck. Some of those players getting to play against all these big clubs every week. You know what I mean? They probably can't believe their luck, and it is a cup final for them every game.
And like you said, Gareth Ainsworth well because you would have played with him, and he comes out every week, and like they've had some horrific decisions given against him late in games, and he's still full of energy. And still smiling. He's there with his jeans and his leather jacket on the sideline.
Garrett's a great guy. Garrett's very good even when he was in the changing room at Port Vale because he left us and he went to Wimbledon in the Premier League. But he was very good at making the lads bonding.
Yeah.
Like on a Wednesday, if you didn't go out and have a few beers with Garrett, like you'd hit the roof on a Thursday if you didn't turn up. It was all about bonding and team spirit, and you can see that's part of his team now. And the way he is. He's just a really nice fella,
He is. He's and his look is great, I suppose, and the fans must love that, and the players must love that too, because he's the kind of guy I'd say if you had a new security guy at the door on the way in, they'd be, saying sorry, bud, you can't come in. Who are you? Like
he's right. He's rock and roll, Garrett, man.
Yeah, and will the players be having a bit of a go at him now when he comes back? Now that they've, with a bit of banter and whatever in training, that they've won 2 games without him.
Oh, 100%, because he'll want that as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, going, like just head off because we'll do better without you. Of course, that's going to be the way. Because by his personality and the way that team is, they're very much a bond, and that's the reason they're in the championship. Because I've looked down, Gareth has done a great job there over the years, and I've often wondered why he doesn't move on. But for him to get Wickham into the championship is unbelievable.
Yeah, and I suppose he had a good playing career too when he went to Wickham, and there must be something about the club that he loves. So.
Yeah, and do you know what? You get people like that certainly probably lives in the area. Like everybody loves him, the fans love him. Like he's probably thinking, I don't really need to uproot and take a chance and say like be a manager of say like I remember years ago when the old Bournemouth manager, what's his name again, Eddie Howe.
Yeah,
he was happy at Bournemouth and then he went off to Burnley because he thought it was a bigger club and he was back within 12 months.
Yeah. So it's a good one, and Wickham with the win they kind of move up the table a little bit. Birmingham had won 2 games in a row. Another big.
They were very lucky though. That goal was horrendous defending.
Oh, the goals were off. They were so lucky with the goals.
Yeah. You kind of get that too.
First one was a shot, and it hit off a fella's leg and went in, and then the second was an own goal and it falls all over the place. Well, it was like terrible defending.
Awful, but that's Kashket with the first goal kind of hit off him, and Kashket scored a few goals for Wickham now this season, And you had that one last night. You had won the first goal they scored in the championship where the keeper basically belted the ball off him and it went in. He scored a few fluky goals this season where the ball just seems to hit off him and go into the net. So
yeah.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Yeah. No, he's been playing well, it seems, but the goals he gets seem to be just, I don't know. It's like he's better off not looking where the ball's coming, just let it hit off him.
Yeah.
This is a game that I watched last night, and I'm kind of sad I did because it wasn't very good. The Derby QPR game.
Rooney looked good though.
Yeah. QPR were they started better. Derby, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say about them. They're having a horrific season, it seems.
I think with Derby, when they came in at the start, they threw money at them, and now all of a sudden they're looking for a takeover. The one thing about Derby, they're after bringing a lot of players in through the academy. I think they've kind of started to realise they can't just buy it and buy this player and that. They've realised they have to use, and they have a really good academy. And I think they've wanted to go down that road, but by the talks of it, they could have a takeover. So, and I suppose the thing with Derby, which I always think watching the championship, is Rooney's kind of lurking behind Philip Cocu, isn't he, for the job?
Yeah,
he is. Yeah,
he is, and he's there. And we were only talking about last night, myself and Phil, after the game, that you have the potential new owners coming in who are multi-billionaires. What did you say last week? He's worth about 150 billion or something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
New owner, if it wasn't for that, maybe the manager would go. But it's probably your man probably doesn't want to change manager, knowing a new owner might come in and he'll want his guy there. But maybe Rooney is the obvious choice. If we give it to Rooney, maybe they'll be okay with Rooney being in charge because he's the big name. And
if Derby are selling the club, why would that chairman sack the manager now and pay him up like 3 or 4 million?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He might have just let it roll.
Yeah.
And that's probably why Cocu is still there.
Yeah, I would think so.
And I would have thought someone like Rafa then would come in if they got a big takeover.
I don't know.
Rafa Benitez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, Rooney's a big name. They might like the idea of Wayne Rooney being there as manager. And like we said, Rooney wants to manage, I think, and you're not going to probably turn down a chance if you basically have your man who's in charge of Man City. It's his cousin. With 150 billion, not million, but 150 billion behind them.
Yeah.
And saying look, you can basically buy who you want there. Money isn't an issue.
Yeah.
What a first job in management that would be, to have that kind of backing.
I had dinner in Asia years ago with Tony Fernandez when he took over QPR.
Yeah. And
I was basically begging them, you're wasting so much money signing all these players, you get ripped off with agent fees, and just did not care. Just I don't care. And at the end, my boss said to me, just stop telling him, George, he goes, he doesn't care. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's kind of, when you have that kind of money, I suppose, it's just a toy for them at the best of times.
And you know that they're going to want somebody like that comes in, and they're just going to look for the club to be fashionable. Do you know what I mean? They're just going to look for names, and Rooney suits them perfect if they have Rooney involved, and you'll see some big names go in there if that's the way.
Yeah, and it would actually be kind of interesting because it doesn't usually happen in Championship. If you get a team with so much money in Championship, to see what kind of players they're able to bring in to Derby to get them up.
It doesn't always work, though, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's like you look at the lads that the Man United, is it Salford, that the United lads own.
Yeah.
And there was big credit of them going through the divisions and how they got into the league. And I remember someone saying all it took was a billionaire and 6 board millionaires to make it happen.
That's mad.
Could be the same with Derby. Nottingham Forest get their first home win in I don't know how long.
Yeah, I think it was my fault though. It was my fault that they won.
It was definitely Phil's fault because we know Forest have been in a very, very, I think they hadn't won in 6 or 7 home games, and it was 1-1 deep in stoppage time, and Phil sent me a text and he goes, it looks like Forest won't win at home again. And I about 10 seconds later they were rewarded a penalty.
Did you see that for that game, Chris Hughton changed the dugouts and went back to the old dugouts?
Yeah, did you see? I missed that.
Yeah, because the previous manager wanted to be closer to the pitch.
Okay.
So he moved into the away dugout, but Chris Hughton moved back into the original where Brian Clough and all that used to be.
Yeah.
and made that decision. Said that he'd rather have the tradition of the club rather than being closer to the pitch.
Yeah, well, that's good. And he's I don't know how they got him in there. He's a great manager. He's done so well in the Championship with other clubs.
Yeah,
But
it would take him 18 months to get him right.
Forest is a brilliant club, but it's just totally mismanaged for years and years. And they've had owners come in and throw money at them. Like, they're one of the prime examples we were talking about. That they've come in and thrown money at Forest, and it hasn't worked. I know. I actually know a couple of the Forest players, and when the owner came in, the previous owner, and was buying all these players and giving them all these big wages. He took them all out for dinner one night, and the lads were telling me that he was sitting with them going, "I just can't understand if I pay all this money and you can't win or you can't get promoted." Like, he just couldn't get around his head that. Like,
not quite how football works, which is why people love the game, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
But Coventry, who we love on this show, we love watching Coventry because they just don't care. They just go for everything. They're playing the same way they played in League One last season. And on Friday night football, especially in front of the cameras, they seem to be a different team, which they weren't obviously now midweek. But I think after the international break, Phil, I think it's Coventry again on Friday night football. So Sky obviously have noticed it as well, because they seem to be putting Coventry on Friday night as much as possible. But does that help, do you think, George, as well? Because Coventry, when they're in front of the TV cameras on a Friday night under the lights, they just seem to be a better team. Are the players more up for those games?
I think this a lot recently with lockdown and no fans at the games, because I played with players that were unbelievable in training. I played reserve team games, and I'm like going, "Oh my God, this player is unbelievable." I remember I played with a guy called Wayne Corden at Port Vale. Had everything. Like, I was like, he's going to be a Premier League player. As soon as you went out in a match there front of a crowd, he was smelt.
Yeah. Like,
literally, I'd be like, "Who is this? This is not the guy that I've seen or played in the reserves with." And players like that, like, you get a bunch of lads. I know myself, say if I was playing on Sky in the Championship, I'd be all out because I know everyone at home is getting a chance to watch me play. And you're like, "Right, I got to do my stuff today." You know what I mean? And it depends on what kind of players you have and how they and what kind of attitudes they have. You know what I mean? Because some players just love playing in front of the TV and the crowds, and then other people, then, as I said, can't cope with it.
Yeah. And Coventry just seem, I know what it is, when the cameras show up, they seem to be a different team. O'Hare has been in good form for them. He scored again last night. But Forest have, they had a bit of a blip there now last week with Newton, but they're slowly climbing away from relegation.
I think they'll be fine.
Move ahead of Coventry. Yeah, and I mean, there's so many games. There's only 10 games gone. There's still basically a Premier League season almost to go in the Championship.
Yeah,
I think though in the Championship, after 10 games tells a lot, because the league really starts to take shape. Then after 10 games, you need those 10 games, and then you start seeing where you're going to end up.
Yeah, and I suppose it's so different from the Premier League that way, where you can play at the weekend, and very rarely you have a midweek game. Whereas, like we were saying earlier, with the 3 in a week, I mean, you could pick up 9 points in a week basically, and you're gone from 18th up to like 7th or something in the league.
It's brilliant.
It must be just so weird being a player in that division. Your team is yo-yoing all over the place, and in such a short space of time as well.
Yeah.
And the way it is, it's normally the ones that make the last dash near the end of the season, get into the playoffs, that inform the ones that go up.
Yeah, there's always one of those teams, isn't there, that's around 15th, 14th, 15th.
Yeah.
Goes a great run in the last 12 games together, finishes about 5th and goes up in the playoffs.
So that was Brentford last year. They won about their last 10 games.
Yeah, and lost in the playoff final, sadly. In a game they probably should have battered Fulham in that one, but they didn't. We've a buddy who's a big Brentford fan, and he was like, "Nah." He said, "Big occasion, for some reason Brentford seemed to choke on the big stage."
Don't turn up.
Yeah. So we move on to the last game of midweek. Was Rotherham 0, Luton Town 1. Collins, again, he's been decent goal scoring form early on. He hasn't scored in a few games from now, but a nice volley from him. Saying there 11 years ago was the last time they played in League Two, these two teams. So they've kind of both made a bit of a comeback in the last decade. They both in League Two 10 years ago, and now they're both in the Championship and kind of being run a bit better than they were in those days anyway.
But that goes back. It goes back to what George was on about earlier. Rotherham don't have the squads at all.
Yeah, they're struggling.
Yeah, they don't.
But I remember Luton, as you probably do as well, George, as a top division team before the Premier League.
Yeah.
Kenilworth Road and the old plastic pitch.
Plastic pitch, yeah. and it's still the same. It hasn't changed. I've been to Luton plenty of times.
Yeah.
I actually played at Yeovil, and he was my assistant manager with Nathan Jones.
Yeah. And what a job he's done since he came back to Luton.
Yeah, like we were talking there, like about other managers and Garrett, like he headed off to Stoke. They were just out for the Premier League and had a complete nightmare. You know what I mean? And then he came back then last season, kept them up. Yeah. But and like before that Stoke job, he was touted around for the Villa job and everything. But luckily enough, the Luton fans accepted him back in the club. But he's doing a really good job, Jonesy. And I know Jonesy well. Like he watches everything. You know, he'll be constantly. There won't be one thing he misses. You know what I mean? I'd say maybe that was the thing with Stoke. He was dealing with ex-Premiership players that probably thought, "Oh, who's this guy coming in?" You know. Yeah. I suppose with Luton, he's got players that want to play and they're doing what he wants, rather than when you're dealing with fellas that are on 40, 50 grand a week. They're like they can just shrug it off, you know. But the Luton lads can't, and he seems to get that out of them.
Yeah, and how he kept them up last season, I don't know, because they were gone when he came in.
Yeah, I totally. I watched that.
Was it they won their last 7 games or something like that?
Yeah, it was crazy run, and then they won 3, wasn't it, to start this season? Yeah. And then they lost 3, and now he's kind of turned the form around the last 4 games again.
But what's after happening now is that international break's coming, so that'll be where they'll go again.
Yeah, is it easier for a team though that mightn't have as many international players, where the manager can now work with the first team squad, as opposed to a side where the players are going everywhere?
Oh, it's way easier to keep your squad together because they'll get time to work on it. They'll give them more days for their next game. They'll get the amount of rest that they need, and you got to think of players traveling now with COVID. Like, it's a complete nightmare. Imagine all the testing. Travel is going to be a nightmare. Like, you're stuck in the hotel, you can't do nothing. So for players and clubs that have their players there, and can work on their first 11 or whatever players they have, it's a big benefit. You'll probably notice that after they come back from international, the ones with a lot of international players will struggle in that first game.
Yeah, it always seems to just kill momentum for a team, and then it always seems to be the team that were struggling seem to be the ones that bounce back, because they tend to work with it. And I suppose in the Championship, if you have a squad that's mostly English players, odds are they're not going away on international games.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Definitely.
Because, England definitely don't tend to like going down the lower leagues to pick players, no matter how good they are.
Oh no, that'd be a sin if they done that.
It's always amazing how a guy can, score like 30 goals in the Championship and not a sniff around the team, and he comes on as a sub for a Premier League game and suddenly he's in the squad.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
But maybe Ireland can sniff around some of these lads and see if any of them can go there. A lot of Irish players obviously in the Championship. Collins, of course, at Luton. Chance as well. So that was it for the game. So we look back like we do every week on the goal of the week. Was there a goal that stood out for you, George, this week?
Yeah.
Well, I think the one that stands out is Cleverley's goal. To be fair, it was a great strike.
Yeah.
But no, there was a few good goals. Ayew had a nice finish in that game for Swansea. It was a nice tidy finish. There was a lot of messy goals this.
There was an awful lot of scrappy goals.
There was the scrap. There must be 7 or 8 really like what you probably see out in a Sunday League pitch.
Yeah.
But and kind of come to. I was only saying this to my kid the other day.
Yeah.
Like, you see a lot more spectacular goals these days. Remember years ago we used to have to watch Italian football to see top corners and all that.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
That was the only time you've seen like proper goals, but it just seems to happen now naturally with all the teams, because the players are getting, I suppose, are better techniques and all that.
They do, and you also have defenders now as well. I think they don't like getting hit in the face with a football.
No, exactly.
Which one? Wilson's goal?
Wilson at Cardiff, yeah.
Yeah, Wilson, I think, was a good one. Nice strike on him.
Yeah, it was a good goal.
Who was the best player that stood out for you this week?
Ayew, I think.
Ayew was very good last night. He was brilliant. Yeah. I would love to see more of the Preston game, because I'm really interested to see how Sinclair is playing. Because I thought it was a bit of a strange move for him.
It was. And when I watched Preston this season, obviously they've since replaced Shawnee up front with the new Danish lad. Reece, who tends to suit their football better, because they were thumping balls forward to Shawnee, who must be about 5'4".
Yeah.
He doesn't have a hope against the big defenders when they're doing that to him.
No, he doesn't.
His strength is in behind. But what they were doing is they were getting the likes of Brown playing it into forward, and you'd have Sinclair and Barkhausen running from the wings in behind the front man, and that was kind of their tactic. But then he seemed to drop Sinclair for some reason for a few games, and Barkhausen hasn't got near the team since he got sent off for basically slipping into someone.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's absolutely nuts, yeah.
I suppose you give Akinfenwa a shout as well, you know what I mean? For what he's doing.
Absolutely. The best team?
Cardiff, I think.
Yeah,
Cardiff,
that's a great result for Cardiff.
Yeah, and I'll give it to Wickham again, because every time I give it to Wickham, they seem to win the next game. And the biggest shock...
Preston as well were pretty good.
Preston as well. But Preston as well were good, but then they're always good away from home. Yeah. What about the shock of the week, the most surprising result for you?
I think Blackburn just being nil all.
Blackburn
not scoring a goal.
Yeah.
I think Bristol City was probably a shock against Huddersfield, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Huddersfield losing to Bristol City good, but they were on a bad run of form, like we said earlier.
Yeah,
David disagree with that. So quickly, as our time is sadly running out again, we'll just look ahead to the weekend games. Cardiff, Bristol City on Friday. Just quick
that's a tricky one. I think it'll be a draw.
Yeah, I call that a draw as well. It's basically nearly a local derby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reading Stoke on Saturday, the afternoon kickoff.
I'm going to go Stoke.
Yeah, Reading 2-1.
What's that, Phil?
Reading 2-1 to get back on track.
Reading lost 2 in a row now, haven't they? Yeah, I'll go for the old Stoke 1-0, the classic Stoke. Birmingham and Bournemouth.
I think Bournemouth will get back to winning ways in this one.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think around the board there for Bournemouth.
2-0.
Yeah. Blackburn QPR could be a good game.
I think Blackburn will just have too much from them.
Yeah, I think so. I think Blackburn.
Yeah. I can't disagree with Blackburn at home. They've been good at home. Brentford home to Middlesbrough.
Oh, I'm going to say a draw.
A draw?
Yeah, a draw as well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 3-0 to Brentford in that one.
Oh,
yeah. I just
no bias there.
Yeah, no bias there at all now. I don't know, I'm saying it all the time. Toney has to score a hat-trick at some stage. Could be the one. Derby, Barnsley.
I think Derby, we're going to hammer them.
Yeah, I think that as well. Yeah, I agree, Phil, there.
Yeah. I'd say 2 or 3-0, to be honest.
2 or 3-0, yeah. I think a good win for Derby because they badly need one. Huddersfield home to Luton.
I think Huddersfield will have too much. I think Luton will be happy with the result last night, and I think Huddersfield will come out gunning on Saturday.
Yeah, I think Huddersfield at home again. They're just well organised. A big game, then Norwich versus Swansea. 2 teams going very well.
Yeah, that'll be a great game.
I think Norwich actually will win it.
Yeah, I'll go Norwich as well.
Norwich at home. Yeah, maybe Norwich at home. Pookie is in good form not last night, but he was at the weekend.
Yeah, he's doing well again.
He is. He got those 2 goals and he had a bit of a smile again after the game.
Yeah.
I suppose as a striker, if you're not scoring goals, you're probably the most miserable bastard on earth. But he was kind of happy after the game last week. Forest against Wickham.
I'm going to go 4-0 Forest.
4-0 Forest.
Yeah.
How about you,
Forest as well. I just think they'll get their results now, so they'll have to pick up.
Yeah, and I mean, Gareth Ainsworth could be back for that, so that's probably a defeat for Wickham, all right?
Yeah.
Can't win when he's there. Rotherham and Preston. Away from home, it has to be, doesn't it? They have to be the favourites away from home.
Yeah, I think Rotherham will start struggling.
Sheffield Wednesday and Millwall.
Actually, it might be a draw, I think.
Another.
I might go Millwall in that one.
Millwall away from home, yeah. I think a 0-0 possibly in that one. And finally, then another good one, Watford Coventry.
I think Watford
at home should be.
Watford.
Both teams to score, Watford to win.
Yeah. So there you have it, guys. George, thanks so much for coming on and chatting with us. Hopefully you'll do it again.
Yeah, thanks, lads. Enjoyed it.
And we will leave it there, and we'll be back on Sunday recording for Monday's podcast. So if anyone has any questions or anything, get them into us. And we'll leave it there, and we'll have our last one then before the international break on Sunday.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks, lads.
Yeah, cheers.